Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's live session for PTE academic course. We are PEC-Education Institute located in Mirpur, and we are giving these live sessions to help people who want to take PTE or are interested in this to know more about it. Now, who are you? Who are we? Let me first introduce myself. My name is Fabliha Bushra Khan Rupunti, and I gave my PTE exam recently. I scored 90 overall with all the other modules above 79, and right now I'm a PT trainer at PEC-Education. So firstly, PEC-Education was started back in 2016, and from there, we were the first training course to introduce PTE in Bangladesh. And over the years, we have had many students. And the first question they ask and the first thing they are concerned about is the marking criteria. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the marking distribution, the marking criteria, and where you have to concentrate more. All those things, and we'll discuss on it. And if you guys have any questions regarding this, we are always free to communicate. So guys, if you have any questions in the beginning regarding PTE, you can just comment down below, and I will see your comments and I will reply back. So those who have joined today, they don't need to know what PTE exactly is. Right, so I'll just give a basic idea. PTE is an English standardized test which is taken by anyone who wants to go abroad, mostly to Australia and New Zealand for immigration, and it's used all over the world for in many universities to check non-native speakers' English capability. So today we're here to know about its marking criteria. Now, there's a warning I would like to give. Now, as I said, many students who come here do ask about this, and in our course we do sit about it, we do talk about it. In our first course, in the beginning itself, we give a basic idea about it, and we have a long one sitting where we just talk about this and we tell them on how you can use this information. So using this information well is really important. Okay, so there are some dangers to concentrating a lot on the marking criteria and its weightage, and that is when you concentrate so much on where the most marks are located, you fail to see your own capability. For example, if I tell you that this particular question, which has a lot of vocabulary, where you need to know a lot of vocabulary, has 50% marks, for example. Now, if you are weak in vocabulary, will you be able to concentrate more on it? Or would it be better use of your time if you could probably concentrate on something that has a little lower grades, that is weighted a little lower, but maybe it's more grammar related and you are good at grammar? So when to use your time well, how to use your time well, and how to study is more related on both things. You should concentrate on which questions give you more marks, but you should also concentrate on which questions are your strengths. So after we give this, now we can just go and start. Now, in marking criteria, there is one thing that you need to know. I mean, there is no negative to it. It's a compulsory information that we give to all the people who are applying to our course, and that is on what basis are you marked. So it's not all that complicated. So now PT has 4 communicative skills. That is true for every standardized test that you might want to take. So you have your reading, you have writing, speaking, and listening. So for speaking especially, the marking criteria, you're graded on 3 things. One is your content, your fluency, and your pronunciation. Now in this, you have 5 grades. That is, you're marked out of 5. So someone who is a native like will get a 5 in fluency, that's native like. Someone who is not exactly native like but is clear in all things, is able to speak well and clearly, will get an advanced. Then you have 4, which is intermediate, or sorry, it's good. Then you have someone who has intermediate level, and then you have limited or intrusive. So there are these 5 criteria or 5 gradings that you get in every speaking question that you might attempt. So you will be marked on whether you're native like, whether you're advanced, whether you're good. So this way, for every speaking question, this is important. So you know that, and this is graded equally. So your content will have maybe 5 marks, your fluency will also be out of 5, and your pronunciation will be out of 5. So how does this help you guys? So for speaking, when you want to speak, you can know that you don't have to pay that much. If your content somehow you miss some things, you can still concentrate on your fluency and pronunciation, and if those are fine, then you can actually score well, even though in that particular question your content might not be as good. So that is something that you need to know, that how you're graded at. Similarly, for writing, we have another complicated marking criteria. We know that everything that you have to write, every question that you need to write in the exam, you will be marked based on your grammar, based on vocabulary, and based on your spelling. So you know that those things are important whenever you write an answer. So furthermore, we have 2 questions for PTE, that is, you have a summarized written text and you have your essay. For these things, form is also important. That is, we have certain rules that you have to write an intro, conclusion. You have to write within certain word limits. You have to write with certain punctuations. So if all those things are fine, you get a full in form. Furthermore, for essay, you have 2 other criteria. That is your linguistic, your written discourse, and your linguistic capability. Now, what's the difference between these 2 is your written discourse is how well and how coherent your entire essay is, whereas your linguistic is more on how well your particular sentence structure is. That is, your tense, then the understanding of sentence structure, all those things are included in that, punctuation, etc., etc. So you know that once you get these criterias, that when you are writing something, when you are studying for a particular module or a particular type of question, you know that these are the things you have to concentrate on: your fluency, your pronunciation, or your grammar, and you will know where you have to improve. So that's one thing that we have covered in marking criteria. Now, I'm not going to go in detail about reading and listening, because those things are pretty simple. You're graded on whether the answer is correct or whether the answer is incorrect for most of the time. So basically, whether it's correct or not is what gives your listening marks, and those are the grading to your listening skills. So there is not much further, there is nothing more to it than that. So that's your marking criteria. So for marking criteria, I will say the sections that you have to take care of it is mainly speaking section, because I see lots of students who concentrate more on how to remember on the content and not enough on fluency or pronunciation, which is just as important. Okay, so once we've covered that, now we come to the next section of the marking criteria. So now that will be, let's see, now we're going to mark distribution, that is weightage of each question. Now for those of you who might not know, PTE has 20 types of questions, and these 20 types of questions has a separate marking scheme and it's weighed differently. That means not all question types are graded equally and not all question types are as important, you might say. Okay, so when we come to the overall weightage of the PTE exam, I will say there are four question types which are very important, and those will be, and they carry around 50% of all marks. Now 4 question types are the result will give you 50% of all the marks that you gain in PTE exam. So you know how important that is. Okay, so those are repeat sentence, read aloud, write from dictation, and reading writing fill in the blanks. Alright, so repeat sentence carries around 15% of all weight, and from there the other 4 carries almost equally the same amount of weight. Now after these 4, there are 8 other question types which I will say carry a certain amount of mark. They're not as important, but they're important for their particular section. For example, if let's say summarize spoken text, it might not be important in the overall, but it will be important to the writing section that you have. So it will give you marks in your writing section. So because of that, these things are also important, and these are the question types that you should take care to study and to concentrate on more if you want to increase your grades for a particular section, or you think that you're just a little short of how much you want to get. Now that's summarized spoken text. You have listening. Summarized spoken text will account for your listening marks as well as your writing marks. Overall, it will give you 7% of your total marks in the PTE. From there, we go to describe image, and describe image has a lot of marks in speaking. Okay, and that's all. That is, describe image only gives you points for your speaking module. From there, we have a retell lecture, then summarize written text, listening, that is highlight incorrect words for listening, and reading fill in the blanks. Now you see, reading fill in the blanks, we didn't really talk about it in the beginning section where reading writing fill in the blanks is there. That is because reading writing fill in the blanks carries points for 2 sections, your writing section as well as your reading section. But reading fill in the blanks will only give marks for your reading section. So both are equally important if you want to score high in your reading section. Now we will come to the marking criteria, that is section wise marking distribution, a little later. And your essay, if you know that is an important essay, has marks on written discourse and your linguistic. So when it comes to your enabling skills, writing essay has a lot to give. So if you are interested in those skills, or maybe your maybe whatever institute you go to wants to know if you have those skills, then your essay writing is an important question that you have to take. Now we'll come to the section wise marking distribution. I know this is a lot of numbers and a lot of hectic information that you have to take. So overall, I will say for weightage is that what is interesting is that there are just 4 question types which gives you 50% of your marks. So, and these question types are, interestingly, that is read aloud and repeat sentences, are 2 question types which gives you which are important. And what you see is these are your first 2 questions that you will attempt when you give PTE. So what you get from this is, even though these are your first questions, and you know PTE starts from simpler questions and then goes to more complicated types. So even though read aloud is simple, it might look simple, but if you do attempt it well, it can give you a real good boost for your PTE marks. Okay, now as we go to the section wise mark distribution, why will this be important? It's important if you have certain criteria that you need to fulfill, that is, you need to get above 65 in all sections. So when you have these kind of limits, and when we need to go that is prepare for these kind of section wise marking, then you need to come to the more integrity things that we are going to look here. That is for listening section, that is if you want to score high in listening section, repeat sentence and write from dictation carries around 20 marks of your total 90 marks. Now you see what's interesting is repeat sentence is a speaking section question, but it has a lot of importance in your listening skill. So you will see how the PTE questions, they are interesting that way. For example, when we come to the writing section, you might think that your essay or your summarized spoken text will carry the most marks in the writing section, but no, that's not the case. Actually, write from dictation, that is a listening section question, carries the most marks, will give you around 30 points of your total 90 points that you score in writing comes from your write from dictation. And then reading, writing, fill in the blanks will also carry around 22 of your total 90 points. Again, read, write, fill in the blanks is a reading section question. So you see how the most points that a particular section carries may not always be in the same section. Now it's different for the speaking section. Now speaking section, the question types that you have in that particular section are all the questions that will give you points for the speaking section. That is, the writing section or the listening section does not carry any points, does not have any questions that has carryover marks into the speaking section. So for speaking section, repeat sentence and read aloud carries the most marks, and also interestingly describe image. So these three things are very important if you are struggling with your speaking scores. As for reading, again, read aloud. Read aloud carries around 22 marks out of the total 90 that you will get. So read aloud, which is actually a speaking test, the first question that you will attempt in your speaking section, gives you the most points for your reading section. So that is why read aloud is pretty important, even though it's the first thing that you will attempt. Okay, so overall you will have reading, read aloud, and reading, writing, fill in the blanks. Now many people suffer from they get low points in reading even though they did score well in the read aloud section. Now why is that? It's because they struggle with the reading, writing, fill in the blanks.